name is Sebastian Miller, and today I will deliver a presentation on Boko Haram in West Africa. Now, who or what is Boko Haram exactly? Boko Haram is a radical Sunni Islamic terrorist organization that aims to establish an Islamic State in Nigeria. It operates mainly in northern Nigeria, but has also been present in Niger, Chad, and northern Cameroon. And this here is a picture that depicts Boko Haram. It was founded in 2002 in northern Nigeria under leadership of Muhammad Yusuf, and in contrast to other radical terrorist organizations, Boko Haram did not begin with violent intentions. Instead, its primary aim was to quote-unquote purify Islam, which meant adherence to Sharia law without provoking neighboring groups or causing bloodshed. Now, Sharia law is defined as a traditional legal system found within some parts of the Islamic world. Given its age and traditional status, however, it is, by our standards, considered oppressive towards certain demographics, such as women in particular, who do not enjoy the same rights as men under the system. In general, it is not seen as compatible with Western values, and it is considered by many to be very conservative. Today, even much of the Islamic world does not practice it. It is typically advocated by other radical Islamic groups, such as the Taliban or ISIS. And this here is an example of one such rule under Sharia law, and that is the enforcement of the burqa, which is a head-to-toe covering that women must wear in public under Sharia. So, from the get-go, it can be inferred that Boko Haram's purpose would be the cause of trouble in a region already riddled with religious strife, even if that was not the original intention. Nigeria, in particular, is composed of both Sunni Muslims and Christians, and the two groups have long held distrust towards each other. Islam first propagated in what is now Nigeria via contact with Muslim traders from North Africa and the Sahel in the 11th and 12th centuries, so it's been there for quite a while. Now, Christianity came much later in the 15th century through contact with Portuguese missionaries and later on with the British. In general, northern Nigeria is home to most of the Muslim population, while the rest of the country is mostly Christian or animistic. Boko Haram's relatively peaceful foundation, what it originally started out as, did not last long. The organization became more radicalized in the years following its foundation, as it attracted more followers, primarily troubled youths, and by 2009, it turned violent. This transition occurred with an anti-government revolt staged by the group, which led to an intense crackdown by the Nigerian government, and execution of the former leader, Muhammad Yusuf. After this event, Abu Bakr Shekau took power, and the group has since been thoroughly radicalized, violence-oriented, and opposed authoritative forces in the area. In other words, this event marked its transition to an insurgency. Under this new status, Boko Haram has carried out acts of terrorism such as suicide bombings, kidnappings, and attacks against groups deemed oppositional to the organization, which includes mostly the Nigerian government forces and the government forces of other countries such as Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, but also Christians. It's worth mentioning, however, that Boko Haram has committed acts of terrorism against fellow Muslims, however. This here showcases a picture of a Muslim woman who clearly does not believe in the followings of Boko Haram and states that it is very much opposed to most Muslims around the world. Boko Haram claimed more territory in 2012 and 2013, spilling over into neighboring Cameroon. It was also during this year, 2013, that it was designated a foreign terrorist organization, FTO, by the US. One of the group's most infamous acts was the kidnapping of 276 schoolgirls in Chibok, Nigeria, in April of 2014. This event received publicity worldwide, and responses in opposition to it became known as the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. I'm sure this here will ring a bell for most of you. The event, the Bring Back the Girls campaign, actually persisted from 2014 to like 2018, I believe, when most of the hostages of those schoolgirls were freed. In other words, it took quite a while for the whole thing to be settled. In 2015, Boko Haram became an affiliated wing of ISIL, thus establishing its status as a so-called Islamic State in West Africa. By this point, it is realized that Boko Haram was not to be taken lightly, and action is warranted from the government forces of Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. This event was known as the 2015 West African Offensive, which drove back Boko Haram from much of its territory in northern Nigeria. After the offensive, there were even claims that Boko Haram had been defeated by the Nigerian government. But despite losing territory, Boko Haram was, and still is, very much capable of operating as a terrorist organization to this day. Attacks and suicide bombings still continue. And here is one such example. This is the aftermath of the suicide bombing in a rural town in northern Nigeria. As of 2016, former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan claimed Boko Haram was responsible for 12,000 deaths, 8,000 injured, and many more thousands displaced as a result of instability and violence. Now, where does Boko Haram derive most of its members? It is said that impoverished, radicalized young men comprise the majority of the ranks in this organization, which numbered between 4,000 and 20,000 members, according to various 2015 reports. According to Freedom Manuha of the United States Institute of Peace, radicalization occurs as a result of change in self-identification due to grievance, as the individual is in a weaker mindset that makes them more vulnerable to radical ideals. Such grievances or unfortunate circumstances that plague Nigeria include poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, harsh upbringings, lack of exposure to nonviolent teachings, and anger towards local government. Impoverished young men without much direction may find meaning in radical ideals because they provide a support system in their lives. Boko Haram gives them a quote-unquote home to congregate under this newfound meaning, and as such, the group expands. To me personally, this process is reminiscent of gangs and their draw to certain individuals, except it takes place at a much larger scale and involves heavier religious and political motives than what we're used to seeing in the United States. On that note, I conclude this presentation. To recap, Boko Haram emerged in the early 2000s and gradually transformed into a terrorist organization after an uprising, which gave them justification to do so. Since then, they have carried out acts of terrorism in West Africa, primarily Nigeria, targeting all factions not in line with their beliefs. Though the organization has lost territory in 2015, it is still operational and still appeals to disaffected youth in northern Nigeria and continues to create instability in the region of West Africa today. Thank you very much for listening. That concludes everything.